Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we have discussed in detail about joints, their types. Then we have talked about some cartilage, tendon, ligaments, and nusa. So starting from the very beginning again, what is joint? First of all, union of two or more than two bones along with ligaments. They articulate together to make a joint, and the movement may or may not be present. Or you can say two or more than two bones along with the cartilage, they articulate together to make a joint, and there may or may not be movement is there. If a joint is there, it doesn't mean there it will move. No, it may or may not move. So according to histologically, according to a fibrous tissue present within the joint, there are three types of joints. Pneumonic is FSC. It is not familiar of science. It is fibrous joint, synovial joints, and cartilaginous joint. First of all, we'll talk about fibrous joint. There is a presence of fibrous tissue within the joints, and there is a less movement in the fibrous joints. The examples are sutures present in our skull, sagittal suture, coronal suture, lambdoid suture, and then we have tibiofibular joint. Obviously, it should be inferior or distal tibiofibular joint. And we will talk about that superior tibiofibular joint. This is a type of synovial joint, or you can say synovial plane joint. But here we are talking about inferior tibiofibular joint. It is a type of fibrous joint. Then another type of joints are cartilaginous joint, presence of a cartilage within the joint. It may be primary cartilaginous joint or secondary cartilaginous joint. Primary cartilaginous joints, there is no movement at all in that joints. In secondary cartilaginous joints, there are less movements. There are examples of the primary cartilaginous joints are manubriosternal joint present between the manubrium and sternum, and epiphysiodiaphysial joint. It is also a primary cartilaginous joint. We know there is a cartilaginous plate is also there. That is what is called primary cartilaginous joint. And the secondary cartilaginous joint having less movement are pubic symphysis and vertebrae. Pubic symphysis, there is less movement when there is a parturition or delivering, mostly in females. And vertebra obviously has less movement. So this is secondary cartilaginous joint. Then we have a synovial joints. Why it is called synovial joint? Presence of a synovial cavity or synovial fluid. Or you can see this is one bone, this is another bone. Here we have a synovial membrane. This is synovial membrane. Within the synovial membrane we have synovial fluid, and here we have an articular disc. And surrounding this synovial membrane we have capsule, and between capsule and between synovial membrane we have a fat pad. And there is no fine diagram. We have a ligament over here, a cruciate ligaments which join two bones together. So this is a typical synovial joint feature. There are a few types of synovial joint. First of all is condylar synovial joints present in our knuckles, or you can say metacarpophalangeal joints. The movements are flexion, extension, adduction and abduction, and little rotation or less rotation. That is condylar joint. Examples are knuckles or metacarpophalangeal joints. Second example of synovial joint is saddle joint present between the first metacarpophalangeal joint of thumb. The movements are flexion, extension, adduction, abduction, and rotation. Saddle joint example is thumb joint. Then we have a ellipsoidal joint. Examples are atlanto-occipital joint, or you can say yes movement, and wrist joint. Wrist joint is also an example of ellipsoidal joint. And for wrist joint, there is a ganglionic cyst presence occurs at the posterior aspect of the wrist due to the inflammation of the synovial sheath around the tendon. That is ganglionic cyst. And if we talk about another type of joint, that is pivot joint, it is present between the superior radioulnar joint, or you can say for pivot joint for rotation, radioulnar joint, pronation and supination. Pronation and supination is very important in for our survival. Or you can say the muscles of pronation and supination are very important for the survival of the fittest, because if we take a food, for taking the food we have to pronate our arm, and for taking the food into our mouth we must supinate. So pronation and supination, very important for our life. And there is a mnemonic called king pronate and beggars supinate, like this. For giving something, giving money or giving to someone, that is pronation, and to take something, some money or some food, that is supination. So king pronate and beggars supinate. So supination, we know for supination we have two muscles, supinator muscles and bicep brachii muscle, and for pronation we have two muscles, pronator teres and pronator quadratus. So come back. Another type of synovial joint, that is hinge joint. Examples are elbow, knee joint and ankle joint. And if we talk about elbow joint, there is no fun in telling. There are three types of elbows are there. First of all, there is a tennis elbow, golf elbow, student's elbow. If we talk about tennis elbow, forceful extension at the elbow joint, there is a pain at the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. And if we talk about golf elbow, if we do a forceful extension over forehead, there will be pain at the medial epicondyle of the humerus. And for students elbow, students used to sit like this and take their lectures or used to sleep. So there will be a bursa present over the Olecranon process that will be inflamed. That is called student's elbow. Three types of elbows are there, and carrying angle is also there. Normal carrying angle is 5 to 15 degree, and male is 6.7 degree, and female is 13.6 degree. If there is a fracture to the elbow joint or hinge joint, then this carrying angle may disturb. In female, it is helpful for in pregnancy, and as we know, shoulder joint is very most freely mobile joint is shoulder joint, and this carrying angle will helpful that there will no striking with the pelvic bone with the help of this carrying angle. Another example of synovial joint is ball and socket joint. So examples are shoulder and hip joint. For shoulder joint we will talk in detail just a few minutes later on, and hip joint we will talk about that also. So movement of the shoulder joint are flexion, extension, adduction, abduction, rotation, and all the movements called circumduction. But shoulder still is a freely mobile, most mobile joint as compared to hip, that is not that much mobile due to the bearing of the weight or locomotion. Then last but not the least, we have a plain joint. Examples are acromioclavicular joint, sternoclavicular joint, and atlanto-occipital joint, or no movements. So the sternoclavicular joint between sternum and clavicle and first costal cartilage. So this is a complex plane synovial joint. Complex plane synovial joint. So then there are some other examples, other classification or types of joints. First of all, amphiarthrosis. There is a less movement in amphiarthrosis. Examples are tibiofibular joint or pubic symphysis joint. Another example is diarthrosis. There is a full movement, ankle joint or knee joint or shoulder joint. Then we have synarthrosis. There is a very less movement, or you can say no movement. Examples are sutures, or you can say these joints help to protect our internal organs. Like for brain there are sutures, and for heart and lungs we have sternocostal joints or manubriosternal joint, sutures and teeth are examples of synarthrosis. Then we have synchondrosis, a presence of a cartilage in a joint, very less movement. Examples, less or no movement, you can say epiphyseal plate, growing plate, and first costal cartilage. First sternocostal joint, that is example of synchondrosis. Well, last but not the least, we have syndesmosis. This is a type of joint in which a ligament is involved. Example is you can say inferior tibiofibular joint. Then now we will talk about talofibular joint. Now we will talk about we will talk about shoulder joint. This is the most freely mobile joint in the body. So due to this frequent mobility, nature gives us a carrying angle so that the arm will not occluded or disturbed by our pelvis. So there is a carrying angle, we can move our shoulder easily, and due to the immense amount of mobility, nature gives us a stability like muscles, rotator cuff muscles. Examples are supraspinatus muscle, infraspinatus muscle, teres minor muscle, and subscapularis muscle. These muscles joint stabilizes the shoulder joint, and this is very weak muscle structurally because the head of the humerus is 4 times bigger than the glenoid cavity of the scapula. If I can show you over here, you can see the head of the humerus is 4 times bigger than the glenoid cavity. So in order to stabilize this structurally weakest joint, that is more mobile joint of the body, we have some features. Like we have, for strengthen the shoulder joint, we have coracoacromial arch, musculotendinous cuff, glenoid labrum, and atmospheric pressure also stabilize the shoulder joint. Then there are some ligaments like capsular ligament, coracohumeral ligament, transverse humeral ligament, and glenoid labrum that are also helpful in the strengthen and stability of the shoulder joint. For capsular ligament, we have medial, lateral, and anterior ligaments, and on the anterior side we have superior, medial, and inferior glenohumeral ligament. So that was about shoulder joint. We have talked about the angles. In males we have 6.7 degree carrying angle. In females we have 13.6 degree carrying angle, and structurally it is weak. It is also called glenohumeral joint, and it is also called shoulder girdle, a girdle which connects the upper limb with our axial skeleton. Then if we talk about some fracture to the neck of the humerus, or you can say the dislocation of the shoulder, as we are talking about shoulder joint, dislocation of the shoulder joint, most biggest part is inferior part. Dislocation of the shoulder joint will lead to the damage to the axillary nerve, and axillary nerve innervates two muscles, deltoid muscle and teres minor muscles. And then there is a feature called frozen shoulder, in which the synovial membrane, two synovial membranes, they stuck together, and it stiffens the joint and reduces the articulation, and stiffen and reduces and restricts all the movements of the shoulder. That is frozen shoulder. It happens in diabetes complications. Treatment is just do physiotherapy and some typical exercises, or else we will give injection, K-cot injection inside the joint, intra-articular injection. Okay, then we will talk about most common congenital dislocated joint, that is hip joint. And why? Because superior acetabulum, that is underdeveloped or deficiency of superior part of the acetabulum, that's why the head of the femur will go upward, and that the test called Trent-Allen test will be positive, and lurching gait will be there. Lurching gait and Trent-Allen test will be positive. And most common fracture sciatic nerve due to the posterior dislocation of the hip joint. And fracture of the hip joint, how can we measure? We measure from the anterior superior iliac spine to the medial malleolus, in which we can, by this we can measure the severity of the fracture of the hip joint. Then if we talk about hip joint, less than 5 years of age, there are more chances for the congenital dislocation plus tuberculosis, because in tuberculosis we feel the pain not only in the hip joint but also on the knee joint due to the same nerve innervation. Then age from 5 to 10 years of age, we have Perthes disease. What is it? It is the femur head may be destroyed, restricted, or you can say disturbed. That is why in X-ray we will see a large empty space in the hip joint due to the damage to the femur head, that is the Perthes disease. And then from 10 to 20 years of age, we have coxa vara, angle between neck and shaft will be reduced. Coxa vara and coxa vulva, we have two terminologies. As we know, we have for elbow, we use cubitus, and for knee we use genu vara, genu valgus, like that. Then from more than 40 years of age, we will have osteoarthritis. And then we will talk about, okay, what happens if in hip joint, we have inflammation of the joint, arthritis at a hip joint. The position of the hip joint will be semi-flexed, abducted, and laterally rotated in the arthritis of the hip joint. And if there is a fracture at the neck of the femur, in a trivial injury, there will be avascular necrosis. As we know, there is a retinacular artery is supplying that neck of the femur. So if we talk about, there is a line called Shenton's line, a line present at the upper border of the obturator foramen to the lower border of the neck of the femur, and that is normally present, and it is absent or abnormal in the fracture of the neck of the femur, Shenton's line. Then we have a talus, a bone which don't have any attachment with any muscle, exception is there. And then we have neck joints. It is very medical legal significance. The neck of there is a hanging, neck joints helping hanging. When there is hanging, the fracture of the dens of the cervical vertebra, we know this axis having a dens, fracture of the dens plus separation of the dens with the cervical vertebra 3. As we know, transverse ligament rupture. Transverse ligament is the ligament of the atlas muscle, is a part of cruciate ligament that stabilizes the dens with the vertebra number C3. So there is in the hanging there will be rupture of the transverse ligament and separation of the dens with the C3 vertebra. and fracture of the dents of the axis, the second cervical vertebra. Then okay, now we will talk about ligament. What is ligament? This is just you can say the fibrous, flexible, tough connective tissue, and that connects two bones together. That is called ligament. There are two types. It is made up of collagen type 1, and there are two types of ligaments: dense and elastic. Dense ligament is present in our elbow joint, in our hip joint, and elastic ligament present in our foot, in our vertebra, in our ear. And okay, we talk about connective tissue. Connective tissue, there are two types of connective tissue: fibrous connective tissue and rigid connective tissue. Fibrous connective tissue is a ligament, is a type of fibrous connective tissue, and tendon. We will talk about this. It is also a fibrous connective tissue. Rigid connective tissue are cartilage, we will talk, and bone. We have already talked in our previous classes about general anatomy of the bone. If you don't know, just go through that channel and watch that. It's very helpful. So about ligaments, there are some function of the ligaments for the stability, for viscoelasticity, and for proprioception. Locations, we know there is a ligaments: coracoacromial, coracoclavicular, coracoglenoid, coracohumeral. Then we have cruciate ligaments in the knee, lateral collateral, medial collateral, cruciate ligaments. Then we have radioulnar. Everywhere we have ligaments. So these are very helpful. That connects two bones together. Then we will talk about some tendon. Tendons are the strongest connective tissue in the body. Overall strongest tendon is Achilles tendon. This is also the fibers, connective fibers. They are parallelly joined together. That increase the tensile strength of the tendon, and it is covered by synovial sheath, and it will connect the muscle with the bone. Or you can say example is Achilles tendon, that connects gastrocnemius muscle, that is called second stomach of the body, and soleus muscle, called second heart of the body. It connects gastrocnemius and soleus muscle with the heel bone, that is calcaneum. So tendon is a fibrous, you can say, connective tissue that connects bone with the muscle. And we talk about covered by synovial sheath, and is very vulnerable or prone to be damaged in increased use or in unaccustomed use. And if we talk about, that was about tendon. Enough for today. And if we talk about some bursa, what is bursa? This have a strong proximity with the bone to muscle, bone to skin, bone to tendon, bone to ligament, and it is present everywhere in the body. It is a fluid-filled sac made up of synovial membrane. Examples are prepatellar bursa and popliteal bursa. Prepatellar bursa, we have other, subpatellar, suprapatellar. Prepatellar bursa is very important clinically because it is when there is inflammation to the prepatellar bursa, there will be redness and swelling. That is called housemaid's knee. And if we talk about popliteal bursa, we have subscapular bursa, other bursa also. Popliteal bursa, there is swelling, redness, and articulation will be disturbed at the posterior or back side of the knee joint, that is called popliteal bursitis. Popliteal bursa, the treatment for the bursitis are just RICE. What does mean RICE? R for rest, I for ice compression, and C for I, R for rest, I for ice. You have to give ice to reduce put ice to reduce the inflammation and pain. And C for compression, you have to put some bandage to reduce that swelling. And E for elevation, you have to elevate, either it is leg or whatever it is, you have to elevate from the ground level. Then last but not the least, we'll talk about cartilage or cartilage. Why it is called cartilage? Because it's made up of type 2 collagen. If we talk about collagen, type 1 collagen present in the bone. Okay, you can see bone having one also. Like type 1 collagen present in the bone, and ligaments we have already talked about, in present in the skin, in the hair, in the nail. Type 2 collagen present in the cartilage or cartilage. Nucleus pulposus, we know there is a nucleus in the intervertebral disc. We have central nucleus pulposus over here. This is made up of cartilage, and this is annulus fibrosus. So type 2 collagen makes cartilage, nucleus pulposus, and sclera, lens, and retina. Type 3 collagen makes us the hollow organs like blood vessel, uterus, and bowel. And type 4 collagen 4 under the floor, it will make basement membrane. And there are three types of cartilage: HFE, hyaline cartilage, fibrous cartilage, and elastic cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, it is present in the epiphyseal growth plate, present in the articular surface. It is most characteristic associated with the synovial joints. Present in the rib, present in the respiratory tract, and there is no repair for that if it is damaged, and it ossifies later in the later life. Then we talk about fibrous cartilage. It also ossifies in the later life, but it can repair very slowly. And the examples are the fibrous cartilage present in the intervertebral disc, intervertebrals, temporomandibular joint, sternoclavicular joint, and knee joint. Last but not the least, elastic cartilage. Repair is very fast, don't ossify in the later life. And examples are the ear ossicles, external auditory meatus, and auditory tube, plus epiglottis. That is also example of elastic cartilage. So that was about cartilage. We talked about bursa, and then we have talked about fashionable disease. If a female using a heel that is more than 5 centimeter in size, then what will happen? It will put a strain over the medial and lateral ligaments, over in the medial and lateral ankle ligaments, and it will disturb the line of gravity, and the spine will be pushed upward, and the knees will be stressed morely, so it will disturb that also. So that was about fascial liver disease in females. We have talked about hiatus, we have talked about connective tissue, frozen shoulder. Okay, RMO, this is a mnemonic to remember if there is a dislocation of the shoulder joint. A for axillary nerve will be damaged. If the fracture of the shaft of the humerus, radial nerve will damage. If this fracture will be supracondylar part, median nerve, and the below that level of the fracture, there will be ulnar nerve damage. So that was about mnemonic to remember that. So that was about shoulder joint, hip joint. So most commonly congenitally dislocated joint is hip joint, and most freely mobile joint is shoulder joint. So, and then we have talked about some types of joints. Is there anything I left?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.